Eccoci qua. So, welcome to everybody. Sorry for my very bad English. Following the previous video in Italian on time domain alignment using REW, Room EQ Wizard. In this video, I show you a method to align a sound system entirely in the time domain with REW, using wavelets as a signal test, and we will use the REW generator and oscilloscope tools for this purpose. Okay. The system I'm using for illustration purposes and just for exercise are these two top and subwoofer, a small 8-inch subwoofer Presonus, and a Bose S1 Pro. So we will align these small subwoofer and top that are placed on a table here on my little room. But first, a few words about the concept of time domain alignments. For more information, I refer you to my full video on my YouTube channel. We must consider that what we observe on the screen in a magnitude and phase graph is the result of mathematics applied by the analyzer to the signal captured in a microphone position by an omnidirectional microphone. But we are not an omnidirectional microphone, and our listening experience is much more complex. An omnidirectional microphone is sensitive only to pressure component of the sound phenomenon, but not to its, for example, vectorial component. No? Furthermore, the sound experience is a global experience for us that involves the entire body and the human person. Our design, our measurements, our analyzer are all subject, like everything in the universe, to precise physical laws. Among these are the second law of thermodynamics and the concept of entropy that is derived from it. They seem like abstract things, but they have great impact on communication and information transmission. I refer you to STI webinar on my YouTube channel for this. And for sure also on design and measure of sound system. The entire mathematics and analysis processes on which dual-channel FFT analyzer are based progressively lose efficiencies as the direct sound is lost or transformed or masked by noise or reverberation. Or when we consider the later energetic component of the room impulse response that are less correlated to the direct sound. So we move to the microphone way in the most reverberant part of the room, and our analyzer goes into crisis. We were trained for decades to turn on the main, the top, no? And continuously blasting pink noise to find delay, to save trace as reference, then to turn off the main, to turn on the sub, applying delay if necessary, if the case, until the phase trace is aligned. Nice game if we were in an echoic video game, but in reality all is more complex. We work in a real world where very often face trace is not an available commodity. With software like Crosslight, we are better able to combat these adversities, but it takes expertise. As I have demonstrated several times in my courses, the face trace, in addition to being easily corruptible, is also highly subjective. Placed in front of the same PA and screen, several people will identify different slopes for good alignment that correspond to different values of applied signal delay. We are talking about oscillations that can also be large, 1, 2, 3 milliseconds. If all these values appear to be valid when looking at the phase trace, when we're looking instead at the more robust IR, we see how these correspond to even significant shift of the waveform. So, time domain alignment. One of the biggest points of confusion when we're talking about time domain alignments is the difference between signal delay and phase shift. Passing through an ideal linear system, the signal does not undergo variations and filtering. All frequencies enter together, at the same time the system, and at the same time they exit the system, and in end. Any device in our audio chain of our real sound system introduces frequency-dependent phase shift and temporal smearing of the impulse response. This is the refiguration of an ideal system in our analyzer, so ideal measurements. You see in impulse response a single peak, you see a full band signal in magnitude. We filter the signal in simple wave, LPF, HPF, for example, to emulate the response of a subwoofer, and you see how the impulse response is yet smeared along the time axis. The waveform now is complex. We add some sort of EQ processing, and we can see as the waveforms are again changed. More complex the processing, more complex the smearing and modification of the impulse responses. But if we look at the start points of the impulse response, it stayed where it was, okay? The start point, the first rising point of the impulse response, it stayed where it was at the beginning. And this represents the first arrivals from the system. So it represents what the position in the space of the system is, where the position is. Here you see two similar subwoofers, so same magnitude, same impulse response, but in different position and along the time axis of the IR window. This is due to the signal delay or the time of flight. I have applied to the to green signal, okay? That is what I need to compensate for alignment of the systems in space. In this case, after the alignment, waveform is similar. Okay. But if I put together two different subwoofer or with different electronic processings, filters rotate the waveforms, changing their envelope. Okay, so a filter is an injection of phase shift in the waveform. Signal delay can't optimize this. With signal delay, we align systems in space, but we need filters to match the waveform. We need local injection of phase shift. Where are the starting points looking at the phase trace? Okay. In my experience, matching the phase slope corresponds to a matching of the central peaks of the IRs. These correspond in a more stimulation of the room, for example, in bus that are not in focus, no, with less attack. The opposite instead, if we match, we align best the rising point of the impulse response. We have powerful tools to optimize impulse response in time, such as the IR filtering at a given frequency, which can help us when verifying the system. This is the tool in Crosslat, for example, in which we see all the traces and overlay between them, and it is therefore easy to understand the temporal relationships between the waveforms. But a much simpler and more effective approach is to use a wavelet as a signal test. Time and frequency are defined in terms of each other. So the more you know about one, the less you know about the other. An impulse is a singularity in the time domain, but it represents an excess of information in the frequency domain. Since it contains the entire bandwidth, when we are perhaps only interested in the crossover between a top and a subwoofer, for example, no? The sinusoid, in the opposite, at a single frequency, is infinite in time and has little information in the frequency domain, just one frequency. An excellent compromise between the two domains is the wavelet. A wavelet is neither a pulse nor a sine wave. It is a compromise. It has a beginning, it has an end. It is compact enough in time with a larger spectral content in the frequency domain, so we can investigate crossover region with a good compromise. So we can use this quick and intuitive method to check and align the sound systems. Again, in my opinion, compensating for the arrival time differential, no, is far more important than matching the waveform of the two systems. And since the arrival times differences depends on position, okay, the process must start at the drawing board in a good design.